You take their name and you release them. You don't even know who they are. And then they're supposed to come back to a court case where they want us to hire thousands of judges. The whole thing is ridiculous. And we have to change our laws. And we do that through Congress. So I would certainly be willing to close it down, put the military and law enforcement very high. But I would be certainly willing to consider a shutdown if we don't get proper border security. Thank you. Please.
Sir, just to follow up on that quickly, is the $25 billion a red line for you?
I have no red line, unlike President Obama. I just want great border security. Okay?
Yeah. Mr. Prime Minister, here in the United States, amongst our commentariat, there was a consensus that the President's appearance at the G7 and NATO damaged our relationship with those institutions. As a member of both of those institutions, what is your assessment of the President's appearance at both?
Sia il G7
both the G7 and NATO, we had a very fruitful exchange of views and opinions and of positions. I think that all the positions and stances which are expressed with clarity and provide a contribution also to review well-established positions are more than welcome. There is a fruitful exchange. We had a fruitful exchange both at the G7 summit and at NATO summit in different frameworks. We, for instance, in the framework of G7 summit, we agreed on the need for reforming the WTO, the system of the WTO. It's a year-old system which considered China as an emerging country. You can understand that applying those same rules after years with the privileges granted to an emerging country clearly means having a system which is not well functioning and not well rational. And NATO, there was also a clear stance taken by President Trump, which I personally share fairly. He expressed a position and the need to rebalance the expenditure which is borne traditionally by the United States, which is very disproportionate. These are absolutely reasonable positions and stances, and I personally take them into great account, and I will be personally the carrier of the message, and I'll try and make the others understand these positions as well. We must negotiate with the United States to find the balance in the interest of Italian citizens, American citizens, and European citizens.
Also, I'd just add to that, but I do want to thank you for what you just said, because it's been very unfair to the United States. We had a very good G7 meeting. That's where Giuseppe and I became friends. I think we were probably more closely aligned than anybody else in the room. But it was a great meeting in every respect. I would say it was very good. And NATO in particular. I went to NATO, and NATO was essentially going out of business because people weren't paying, and it was going down, down, down. You just have to look at the line. I came along last year, and in a fairly nice tone, I said, you got to pay. And they paid $44 billion more. And this year, I said it in a little bit stronger tone. And they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars more over the years. And NATO will be strong again. And if you speak to Secretary General Stoltenberg, I think he's the biggest fan of Trump, because he said we couldn't collect money until President Trump came along. And he said last year we collected $44 billion, and this year the money is pouring in. But it's like the Prime Minister said, we really talk about imbalance. We were treated very unfairly. The United States was treated very, very unfairly, because we're shouldering anywhere from 70 to 90% of the cost of NATO. That's not fair. It's not fair, especially when you take Germany, and Germany's paying 1%, a little more than 1%, and they're buying and paying tremendous amounts of money to Russia. So we're supposed to protect countries from Russia, but they're paying Russia billions and billions of dollars for the energy. Not good, not a good situation, and I let it be known. So the bottom line is the NATO countries are now paying a lot more money, and NATO's become a lot stronger because of it. And I appreciate your answer. Thank you. Please.
Posso aggiungere, scusami,
Sorry, Donald, may I add something? I'm saying that as a person who has huge experience as a lawyer, you have a president who is a strong supporter and advocate of the interests of the American people and the American country. He's a great negotiator. And I'm told there is Maria Luisa Rossi Hawkins from Mediaset Group who wants to ask a question. The question must be asked.
Potential, the Italian economy underperforms regularly. Given your stellar success in the U.S. economy, what do you think would reignite the Italian economy, and what role do you think the EU should play on it? And President Conte, do you think President Trump's formula would work in Italy as well?
Well, I can answer. The biggest thing Italy needs is great leadership, and they have it right now. I really honestly believe the Prime Minister is going to do a tremendous job on economic development. In addition to borders, you know, for economic development, you need borders also. But you have a man that's going to do a terrific job. I have no doubt about it at all. He knows how to sell. He knows how to promote really a great product, because they make among the greatest products. I won't mention their names, but they are great. I have some of them. And Italy makes great product, and I think it's going to do very well economically, and we're there to help. We have had record numbers. I've been here for a little more than a year and a half, and we've had record numbers. We've had numbers that nobody believed possible, especially if you look at one particular fact that was not reported very much, trade deficit, $52 billion reduction in the trade deficit for the quarter. And I think probably Steve Mnuchin, Treasurer, is here, and Mike Pompeo, I think nobody would have thought that would be possible so quickly. $52 billion reduction in the trade deficit for the quarter. I think that Italy's going to be able to do the same thing, slightly different numbers, but the same thing.
What role should the European Union play in the matter, sir? In the recognition of the... What role do you think the European Union should play in the reignition of...
Well, that's up to them. I don't want to get involved in that. Look, the European Union, Jean-Claude and I had a fantastic meeting last week. We were having a hard time, and then I did mention tariffs on cars, and we got along very well. Very well. I think they're going to treat us very fairly, and we're going to treat them fairly. But as you know, it's been a one-way street. The European Union has totally taken advantage of the United States. We can't let that happen. Not fair to the United States. And by the way, Italy has a $31 billion surplus with the United States, meaning we have a $31 billion trade deficit with Italy, and we discussed that, and we'll work something out. We're going to work something out, okay? Thank you.
Quanto a me,
As far as I'm concerned, I'm very envious of the records and the growth figures of the American economy. We discussed that before with Donald. Somehow these are systems which cannot be compared because they are magnitudes, orders of magnitudes which are very different, but at the same time envious but ambitious at the same time. As government leader, I'm ambitious for my economy to do a lot, much more than what was done in the past. We are preparing a series of structural reforms which we will be submitting to the attention of our European partners too. I do not want the tax reform to be set aside. It was a leverage in this country for economic growth, and generally it represents, if well constructed, it represents a leverage for economic growth by working also on streamlining and simplifying red tape, administration, regulations. So we are trying to eliminate corruption pockets. We are trying to speed up the civil trials, the procedures, the proceedings. They are all sectors together with the citizenship income, which will support those people who lose a job to find a new one. These are all the reforms that we consider to be a positive element to represent an economic leverage for our country, which can then try and reach the growth.
I do think this, one of the biggest things that we've done, obviously the massive tax cuts, but maybe equal to, would be the tremendous cuts in regulation. And I know Italy well, and they have a lot of regulation. And I have no doubt that the Prime Minister. Giuseppe will be working very hard on that. But I think, Giuseppe, I can say from our standpoint, one of the most important things we did was cutting massively these horrible regulations. And I believe so strongly in the environment. I want the cleanest air, the cleanest water, the cleanest everything, the best everything. But you had 10 regulations for every point in some cases. It was ridiculous. It would take many years to get a highway or a road approved. We have that way down. We have it down to 2 years, and it'll hopefully be down to 1. And it may get rejected, but at least it's going to go quickly. So we want regulation, but it's got to be cut to a minimum and do the trick. And I think that Italy will follow suit. I know they've looked at it very strongly, and they're going to follow suit. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Roberta Rampton of Reuters, please. Roberta. Hello, Roberta.
Thank you, Mr. President. You spoke a bit about Iran today and your discussions, and I'm wondering if you could tell us what you think Iran needs to do to reduce some of the tensions. And you've met with the leaders of North Korea and Russia. Are you prepared also, are you willing to meet with President Rouhani, and under what conditions? And have there been any preliminary discussions about something like that?
I'll meet with anybody. I believe in meeting. The Prime Minister said it better than anybody can say it. Speaking to other people, especially when you're talking about potentials of war and death and famine and lots of other things, you meet. There's nothing wrong with meeting. We met, as you know, with Chairman Kim, and you haven't had a missile fired off in 9 months. We got our prisoners back. So many things have happened so positive. But meeting with people, I had a great meeting, in my opinion. Of course, the fake news didn't cover it that way, but I had a great meeting with President Putin of Russia. I think it was a great meeting in terms of the future, in terms of safety and economic development and protecting Israel and protecting everybody. I thought it was a great meeting. Great meeting with NATO. I just explained NATO. Hundreds of billions of dollars more money will be paid into NATO, the coffers of NATO, and much already has. So I believe in meeting. I would certainly meet with Iran if they wanted to meet. I don't know that they're ready yet. They're having a hard time right now. But I ended the Iran deal. It was a ridiculous deal. I do believe that they will probably end up wanting to meet, and I'm ready to meet anytime they want to. And I don't do that from strength or from weakness. I think it's an appropriate thing to do. If we could work something out that's meaningful, not the waste of paper that the other deal was, I would certainly be willing to meet.
Do you have preconditions for that meeting?
No preconditions, no. They want to meet, I'll meet. Anytime they want. Anytime they want. It's good for the country, good for them, good for us, and good for the world. No preconditions. If they want to meet, I'll meet.
Prime Minister, I wanted to ask if you and the President, you talked about the need to stabilize Libya. I wanted to ask if you and the President discussed working together on energy production in Libya in some way. Did you discuss oil production in Libya? Do you see a way for the United States to become involved there, perhaps with Italy's help?
We discussed the problem of stabilizing Libya and obviously of the security to be guaranteed for the whole of the Mediterranean area. You see, it's not only a problem of the migration routes. Many of the migration routes from African countries concentrate in the Libyan area, but it's also a problem of security in general. Because, for instance, through the migration routes, foreign fighters might reach the European territory, agents who could carry the terrorist threat. We didn't discuss in details other problems. Certainly, it is our intention to respect the Libyan population. We are not driven by economic interests. We are not driven by the problem of energy supply. Our interest, and from this point of view, I can announce, but already said that we are going to organize, in agreement with President Trump, I'm going to organize a conference on Libya, We would like to deal and discuss all of the issues relating to the Libyan people, involving all of the stakeholders, actors, protagonists in the whole of the Mediterranean. We are going to discuss economic aspects, but also social aspects, the protection of civil rights, the problem of constitutional process of issuing and passing laws to enable Libya, in particular, to get to democratic elections in a condition of the utmost stability. I'm told that Ilaria Lombardo from La Stampa wants to ask a question. Thank you. I have a question to Prime Minister Conte and then a question to President Trump. There are three pending issues on the table with the American administration. One of them is sanctions to Russia. Since Italy, the two main government parties in Italy said that they want to lift the sanctions on Russia. What's the official position by the government since the American administration is asking for these sanctions to be kept? The other 2 points are the TAP gas pipeline. The American department asked to continue with the work while there are some ambiguous positions in Italy in relation to this project, and the F-35 program. What is Italy going to do? Will Italy confirm the program? Thank you. I'm going to answer in relation to sanctions on Russia. I'm going to repeat what I said before because I've already taken a stance in all of the international summits. I'm going to be boring, but this confirms that the position of the Italian government is not changing in this respect. We are open to dialogue with Russia. We do believe that Russia plays a fundamental role in all international geopolitical crises. So thinking that Russia can be kept out of a dialogue, as President Trump said, if we want to solve problems, we cannot choose the counterparts to deal with. We must accept and sit at the table and negotiate and have dialogue with those who are, in reality, our counterparts. As far as the sanction system specifically is concerned, I'm well aware, I said that the system stemming from the Minsk agreements as the outcome and is connected to the implementation of the Minsk agreements. So it is clear that it is unthinkable today to lift overnight those sanctions. However, exactly because we are open to dialogue with Russia, the position of my government has been stated straight away is to make sure that the system of sanctions doesn't affect the civic society, doesn't affect the economy of the small and medium-sized enterprises in Russia. Italy, from this point of view, has a tradition of intense economic relations with Russia in this respect. So, in order to stress once again with a final statement, sanctions against Russia are not and cannot represent an end. Second issue, Trans-Adriatic pipeline. I discussed this with President Trump, and I reported to him that my government is fully aware of the fact that this is strategic work in terms of energy supply to Italy and to the south of Europe and the Mediterranean area. We are perfectly aware of the fact that this can provide a contribution also in the renewal of the energy system and the elimination of coal, which is part of our program. At the same time, I correctly informed President Trump that there are some uncertainties by local communities, the communities where the pipeline will land. Since problems must be faced directly and not trying to avoid them, once back to Italy, as soon as possible, I will discuss the issue with the competent ministers, and I will go and meet the local mayors, the local communities, trying to find a solution which will take into account the concerns of local communities. As far as the third point is concerned, F-35, as you know, do you know this is a program which was decided in 2002, that the agreements were signed in 2002? So it's a pretty big period of time in terms of talking about needs for defense and security. As a government, we are responsibly evaluating this file. As you know, there is already a process of orders being issued, which is taking place, and these orders are issued much earlier because the work is very complex. So we will continue to follow this file and we'll make all the necessary choices in a very cautious way in view of the needs of defense and security, being fully transparent with our partner, the Trump administration.
Thank you very much. Sanctions on Russia will remain as is. As far as a pipeline is concerned, I'd like to see a competing pipeline. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I hope you're going to be able to do that competing pipeline. And we are already talking to the European Union about building anywhere from 9 to 11 ports, which they will pay for, so that we can ship our LNG over to various parts of Europe, and that will be more competition. But the sanctions on Russia will remain as is. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.